All right, we just wrapped up Liberal Hivemind's video that came out. Oh, it came out yesterday. Okay. Ilhan Omar and, deeper shiitake mushrooms than you realized. It was a good video, just kind of listing out all the red flags surrounding the fraud that's being uncovered in Minnesota. I think he and I seem to be in agreement with kind of Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one, and her explosion of net worth and her husband's venture capital company, it all is a little too good to believe. Like, it's kind of a fairy tale. So we'll, as far as Ilhan Omar goes, we'll wait and see what happens. And he dropped a video today. Oh, wow, 40 minutes ago. Yeah, so I just got in, so I won't release this one until, like, tomorrow sometime. I think that's a courtesy thing. I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm doing. So, I should have checked the comments on the other one. Whatever. So, let's get into it. Liberal Hivemind, great content creator. I don't agree with him all the time, but I think that he breaks things down really well, and he's very blunt, but in a matter-of-fact way. Like, you never have to guess what his opinion is, and that's something that I kind of appreciate, especially because I personally find myself, maybe I play devil's advocate a little too well, in the sense that I understand the arguments that are going to be made, so I can make both sides. But I really appreciate his content. Wow, I didn't realize he was 1.7. That's awesome. Good for him, man. Yeah, so go check him out. Not that anybody is going to watch me that hasn't watched him. So if you didn't know he existed, he's pretty cool. Let's get into it. This one is, Walz are closing in. So this one is about Tim Walz. He was on the, and then Omar Fateh, I think, was on the thumbnail as well. So we shall see.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing
I
the
saw this
abundant
meme.
Hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day.
That was good. So this is, about Nick Shirley. Some people were saying, we already knew fraud was going on, but, the fraud before Nick Shirley went boots on the ground in Minneapolis was mostly like the food and the healthcare stuff. But he went to the daycares and, not that 100% of the businesses he visited were like, he didn't uncover financial reports. He didn't do anything like that, but he's like, where are the kids? Whatever. Apparently he went to one that was outside of business hours, but even the business hours are kind of weird. I think it was open from like 2 to 10 and he was there in the late morning. But then it's weird because in the state documents for like their, requirements or whatever, like they were supposed to be open from like, it was like 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It was something like that, like just kind of middle of the day. And like, obviously people have swing shifts. Not everybody works a 9 to 5. Some people work night shift, swing shift, different things. But no, Nick Shirley, even if not 100% of the $110 million that he checked out. So it was all the businesses added together have received roughly $110 million of taxpayer funding. So even if the one that was, the incorrect business hours of operation or whatever that he went to, it's still a significant amount of money. And it's a double-edged sword because he's finding the fraud and uncovering it and bringing more awareness, but at the same time, it's pouring more fuel on the racial, ethnic aspect of what's going on, which, again, in the previous video I said this, I'll say it again. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what party you are. I don't care what you believe or what you don't believe. If you're found committing fraud and misappropriating or abusing taxpayer money, I want you to be prosecuted and punished to the fullest extent of the law. I think it's it is something that should be uniting everybody, regardless of party. We should be looking at fraud and theft from our money, our taxpayer money, and we should be pissed at the people perpetrating it, not running defense for them. And I understand that it's the internet, people put stuff out, people jump on bandwagons, and it's hard to reach across the aisle. Or even, like, I consider myself in the middle, because I agree with both sides on different things. Maybe a little bit more right-leaning on, like, foreign policy, left-leaning on social issues. Like, in the state of Colorado, I voted to legalize medicinal marijuana, recreational marijuana, and then we just passed in the county that I live in, we just allowed companies or dispensaries that had medical marijuana licenses, that basically rolling in this past year, 2025, they are permitted to sell recreational as well without additional licensure. And I don't personally smoke. I don't use anything. The only thing that I really use is alcohol. I drink. That's it. But, you know, I think it's an issue that should have been left up to the states. You know, Trump just reclassified, so we're probably going to see differences moving forward with the reclassification of marijuana. I don't know why I'm talking about marijuana when we're sitting here for a video. I'm sorry. Anyway, this should be uniting everybody. We should all be pissed. And right now, the magnifying glass is on the Somali community now it's also in Ohio. And, you know, that's not to say that all fraud is committed by one group of people, but right now that's where the focus is. And we just have to hold ourselves back from crying racist. Even though I know that right now things are very sensitive, especially with ICE and potential racial profiling that comes with deportations, but I don't know. Everybody just needs to calm down and realize that everybody should be against fraud no matter who commits it. And it's us against the fraudsters, literally. No matter your age, gender, pronouns, political party, color of your skin, every single one of us that isn't committing fraud is on one side against those who are and against those who enabled it. So, speaking of enablers, like I said,
Hivemind.com.
Walz.
Well, it appears as though we've stumbled upon yet again another bombshell. In this case, a clip that now seems to further implicate Tim Walz and all the reckless, fraudulent spending we're seeing in Minnesota. You know, as much as Tim Walz is attempting to separate himself from everything that's gone on under his apparent non-existent leadership and oversight in the state, as much as he wants to pretend as if his hands are clean, time and time again, just like Ilhan Omar, all roads seem to be leading again and again to little tampon Timothy. I got a clip here of a Minnesota Somali leader who's basically saying the quiet part out loud that before Tim Walz, there was no big exorbitant funding being dispersed to all of these organizations. No, Tim Walz himself was the factor that came in and started dispersing all of these funds with little to no oversight.
Yeah,
now you could argue
they had like a $18 billion budget or something, and then they were like 9 in the hole. And then he wanted to increase by like another 8 or 9 billion or something.
That it's a vague coincidence, but I'm looking at this, especially with all the other evidence that we've got, as essentially a direct cause and effect claim now being stated on camera. Before Tim Walz, this abuse did not exist. I don't know how Tim Walz's career survives this, folks. At this point, I don't even know how this guy's gonna avoid prison time. Different day, same story.
I can't believe he hasn't
just got
resigned.
worse for little tampon Timothy. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's first start off with this bombshell clip here. We've got a Somali individual by the name of Hamse Warf. Maybe Hamse Warfe, doesn't really matter. Anyways, he's actually speaking in a foreign language, once again highlighting another issue, political discussion and community organizing happening in a foreign language in America. Not exactly a fan of that. In fact, I'd say it triggers my reaction of disgust, but the video is equipped with subtitles, and well, just take a look.
I wouldn't say, I agree and disagree. I wouldn't say disgust. You know, there are plenty of families in the US that are multilingual, but I understand where he's coming from. Like, especially, you know, I don't know about him, but in public settings, when it's an elected representative and it's like you should be speaking English. Like, I'm sorry, but our founding documents were written in English. All of our founders spoke English. It's the majority spoken language. It's the trade language of the world. If you want to speak other languages, that's awesome. Like, I love that. I love linguistics and studying, the commonalities between like the romantic languages, different things like that. Like, it's fun to me. It appeals to like my weird autistic brain, but like you need to be able to speak English, in my opinion.
waxyaabihii aan u ololeynay oo u taageernay gudoomiyaha waxa kamid ahaa gobolka Minnesota 30 sano ku dhawaad baan deganahay hal qof oo Afrikaan ah oo gudoomiye gobolku xil sare u magacaabay ma jirin suuqaasana aynu joognay
waan gartay
laba marna oo nin la magacaabay kaliye waxa rabnaa waxtarka gobolka maadaama oo wax soo gelitaankiisa aanu qayb ka nahay nacfigiisuna waa inuu gobolka dadka Soomaaliyeed soo gaaro
and that's fair enough. Like I agree with him there. I mean, I don't know about demanded. I'm sure that there's, translation things here. But with him saying, we've been here for 30 years and they'd never been appointed to a senior position and we wanted real power, not just not just given the cape and the scepter, but not actually be able to do anything with it. Like, I understand that. That was the big thing with American-born people of African descent, right? African Americans in the 60s, or way longer than that, but you know what I mean. Like the whole idea of black power, that's what it was. It was, hey, we're here, but we are drastically underrepresented. We don't have political power. We, even after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were passed, they still were underrepresented in, especially in the South, but in every facet of government. And so especially how divided things were then, and we're divided now, but I feel like it's more political now versus racial back then. Racial and political back then, that political power is very important, because if you don't have agency or impetus to act in your community, especially when that community purports to be a democracy or a democratic republic, it's so hypocritical, and it disillusions people from wanting to even participate in the system, and if you lose hope and you don't participate in the system, then nothing's ever gonna change for the better. So I understand where he's coming from when he says this.
oo gudoomiye gobolku xil sare u magacaabay ma jirin suuqaasana aynu joognay
waan gartay
laba marna oo nin la magacaabay kaliye waxa rabnaa waxtarka gobolka maadaama oo wax soo gelitaankiisa aanu qayb ka nahay nacfigiisuna waa inuu gobolka dadka Soomaaliyeed soo gaaro waxaa jirta in jirin hay'ada Soomaaliyeed ama bulshada Soomaaliyeed wasaaradaha gobolka mid kamid ah oo xataa $100,000 taariikhda ka soo gashay gudoomiyaha Tim Walz ka hor
si wanaagsan
Wow.
laakiin markii ugu horeysay waxa suurta gashay si toos ah loo taageero baahida dadka Soomaaliyeed oo gobolka.
Now, I guess I'll have to give a little bit of a TLDR for those who just listen and don't watch and weren't able to read the subtitles there. But basically what this guy is saying is that before Tim Walz, Somali organizations in Minnesota didn't even get $100,000. But now that Tim Walz is in, all of a sudden the cash is flowing. He then starts talking about how they wanted real power in the state that they contribute to. I guess you could argue kind of like a quid pro quo. But again, based on this false premise that the Somali community is
I wouldn't say that's a quid pro quo. I think that's kind of framing it disingenuously. Just where, quid pro quo, something for something, or, other idioms like one hand washes the other. It's the idea of I get something, you get something. And a lot of times that's what is used in like corruption cases or bribery cases where, was there a quid pro quo? Did you exchange money for favors? Like that sort of a deal. And, like I just said, I think that this is more, it's more rooted in having political power as a people group, at least just the way that he's speaking. So I don't like the use of quid pro quo, but yeah, I guess in light of what's happening now, I can understand why Hivemind is saying that.
And basically the big line in that clip is that now,
12
for the
billion
first time
plus.
ever, it
I
all
get it.
became possible for Somalis in the community because Tim Walz is giving them the funds that they want. Now, I may be jumping the gun here a little bit, but basically the way that I'm reading it is you've got the Somali community, they're claiming, oh, we add so much benefit and we deserve something in return. Then the Somalis get behind Tim Walz, Walz gets elected, and all of a sudden the cash starts flowing, and then Minnesota taxpayers are defrauded for billions of dollars. Either Tim Walz is a monumental moron who got totally and utterly played, or it's a basic quid pro quo. Support my campaign and I'll make sure that you guys get whatever you want. It's essentially an open admission.
Okay,
now by
that makes
itself,
sense.
more funding
I
isn't
see what he's saying
necessarily a
there.
crime. And in the context that Tim put it,
I see what he's saying there. So I assumed he meant quid pro quo coming from the Somali man who's just speaking, but I understand what he's saying now, where he's saying it's a quid pro quo coming from Tim Walz, where he may have approached the Somali community or leaders in the Somali community and got them to vote for him like as a block. That I understand what he means.
it wasn't more funding for Somali fraudsters, but rather just $316 million cash injection for all child care and adult care and autism care. Well, actually, the 300.
And those are all great things. Like, those are great things to be able to provide. I don't like doing it when we're at a deficit, and I don't think that government is the most efficient way, of doing a lot of things where you're bang for your buck, literally. I think government is one of the worst bang for your bucks that you could do. But for certain things, like I think you have to do it. For example, like roads. I know the hardcore libertarians are like, oh, you dirty statist, why are you so enamored with your roads? It's like, I don't want to deal with a private fire department. I don't want to deal with private road maintenance. I think that's just everybody pays into it. It gets taken care of eventually, unless you live in like Michigan or northern Wisconsin, and then the roads never are fixed ever. But what sucks is that this is going to be used as an example probably for decades, if it's as big as they're saying it is, to argue against and beat down arguments for social programs. Safety nets. This is going to be the cornerstone example of, why the hell are we paying into Social Security? Why the hell are we paying into Medicaid? Why the hell are we paying into Medicare? Why the hell? And so just for that alone, like, if they're found guilty, like, I don't know, I want the maximum punishment. I want them tarred and feathered in the streets publicly. They should be in in the public square. You put your head through it, and yeah, we should be able to drive by, call Tim Walz a retard, and then throw fucking Rotten Tomatoes in his face.
$16 million was just for childcare, so all the other
and then he should go to jail for the rest of his life if he's guilty. If he's just negligent, that's one thing. Obviously, still probably jail. But if he is found to have like coordinated this, beyond like just simple enabling, but actual like coordination, I want him in jail for the rest of his life. To borrow from Asmongold, I want him to break large rocks into small rocks until the day he dies.
programs were likely
and that goes for all of them.
Over $1 billion range. The increase in funding isn't necessarily the immediate point of foul play, but after those floodgates were opened, it's everything else that then transpired for the last 4 years. All that funding into these community groups as potential political quid pro quos for supporting his campaign, and then all that money flowing with no oversight, not even a checkup. Yeah, I'd argue it's looking pretty irredeemably bad for Tim Walz. And of course, speaking of irredeemably bad,
I don't remember if it was the one that spelled Leering Center or if it was another one of the daycares, but somebody had reported and investigated it like 2 years ago, and it was found, they found 0 children, they found a bunch of non-compliance, like with state regulations, and I guess just nothing happened to them. Like, and then another one had gotten shut down, and then they literally just spun up a different LLC in the same building. Like there's a lot going on.
Tim Walz makes it now even worse for himself. This is a clear point of concern. And again, more and more fingers are being pointed at Tim Walz. But speaking of the concept of concern, it appears as though the only person who seems unconcerned, well,
is Tim
it's
Walz.
Governor Tim Walz.
Yeah. No,
Tampon Tim was recently at a community
attitude,
event. He was actually questioned on the issue of Somalia.
His attitude, or like his candor, it boggles my mind. Like, I can't tell if he's actually retarded and doesn't understand like what happened and what the implications of what happened are, or he's deluded to the point where he thinks that he's untouchable. Like, I really don't. He might cut to a clip of like him at the party and people are trying to ask him questions and him doubling down. He just announced that they're doing the like paid 20 weeks off for like after a birth, which the state of Colorado, we have something similar. It's not full pay, but it's I think it's like 70% pay, and you can take like up to 16 weeks or something like that with a like a birth in the family, which I think that's pretty cool. Because you hear stories about people who have their first child and it's like, oh yeah, and I was back to work like 3 days later, and just not the men typically, and so they don't get to be there for a lot of the immediate development and whatnot in their child.
Fraud. He was asked about the money being siphoned, and his response, I gotta tell ya, well, it's unjustifiable.
Governor Walz, what can you say about the latest on the Somali fraud that happened under your watch, sir?
Governor, have you been able to apologize yet to the people of Minnesota for allowing this Somali fraud to continue under your watch?
Of the people of Minnesota.
Is it time to apologize? How about the whistleblowers that you have allegedly retaliated against? Would you like to respond to the whistleblowers?
And right now, our neighbors are being demonized. Our neighbors are being terrorized. Our neighbors are being picked up off the streets.
And I think now in this moment, we need to be very clear about this. With this governor, with any Democratic governor, with any of us, these
This just reminded me. I remember now that Tim Walz also like cheered on the burning of Teslas when Elon was working at Doge. And like that makes so much more sense now, where he probably was like, don't investigate, don't look into shit, because
better not ever
let's be real, there's like a 95% chance that he was involved directly.
mistake our kindness for weakness, because we're going to stand in that breach.
Clap, my monkeys, clap.
We're going to defend our neighbors. And we're going to advocate things that make a difference. The antidote to that is positive actions to improve lives that go against what they're trying to do. So instead of demonizing our Somali community, we're going to do more to welcome more in and welcome people in.
He basically doubles down, and again, attempting to use the same moral shield, the same racial shield. He doesn't want people to demonize Somalis, and then doubles down and claims that he's gonna...
Is that a Rolex? I can't tell what the emblem is. I mean, it doesn't look like one. It's a little too wide around the lugs from any Rolex that I can tell, because it's a polished bezel, or it's either brushed or polished. It's not a diver bezel.
To fund the programs and enhance the programs even
try to
further.
find that.
What is wrong with this guy? And again, the reality here is that nobody is demonizing these Somalis. No, people are demanding oversight and audits and enforcement. Yet it appears as though the governor of Minnesota has no interest in any of that, despite all the explosive findings and massive cases of fraud. We're asking the absolute bare minimum from Tim Walz, and his response is, hey, don't be a racist, and just allow me to continue increasing funding to these fraud schemers. He's basically doubling down that actually all of this money being spent is virtuous and necessary. Oh, it's reckless. And I'm starting to run out of benefit of the doubt here. He wants you to believe that he's just sticking up for the Somalis that are being unfairly targeted. He's defending all the spending in the programs and all the good that he's doing. But the way it appears to me is that he is complicit, and that's basically the defensive shtick. Now, of course, again, I'm not going to sit here and declare guilt without due process, but what I will say is that there needs to be a full-scale investigation moving forward. ordered full-on forensic audits, subpoenas, document trails. If Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, or anybody else involved here, knew about the fraud and failed to act, then the law needs to take its course. And then also, the next question, was there a quid pro quo? Was he essentially funneling all of this money without oversight in return for political support from the Somali community? Well, there's certainly some circumstantial evidence to suggest that that might be the case. And clearly at this point, with all the red flags, with the massive flashing red warning signs, the American people deserve answers. The American people deserve to know what happened here, and no amount of, ooh, that's racist, is gonna make this stuff go away.
Yeah.
Again, the key factor behind all of this funding and the absolute epic fail in terms of lack of oversight, it all goes right back to tampon Timothy Walz. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, another good one. Again, it's kind of the same situation with Ilhan Omar, where it isn't confirmed. It's all alleged. It's not 100%, but it definitely doesn't look good. And, you know, if anything, it is pretty damning, you know, to where, well, I don't even know what the most recent Polymarket, will Tim Walz be arrested? Oh, now it's changed to charged by. Oh, there's a few of them. So here's one Polymarket right here. Geez, that's so depressing that people think that. Will any Minnesota politician be charged with fraud by March 31st? So right now it's sitting at, yes, at 17%. Man, that's crazy. And then I think a lot of that is just lack of faith in the FBI, lack of faith in Pam Bondi. Charged by March 31st, 9%, before 2027, 28%. Okay, so maybe it's more of a timing thing, but even then, not by 2027. Like 72% of people don't think so. Yeah, that's crazy. What I really don't like, though, is the defenses and the pivot coming out from the left. Like Hassan Piker made like the stupidest comment ever. Not ever, but it was bad. Or X.com. My God. Where he's trying to insinuate that he basically was like, hey, why is this guy, Nick Shirley, why is this guy trying to break into daycares and film kids? This, that was today. Let's see, should be right. Yeah, now they're saying Nick Shirley's far right. He's being promoted by all these people. Which, I mean, if you're on the right, of course you would cheer on Nick finding this. And he is right. He's right wing, but it's just labeling people like far right, Zionist, Nazi, commie. Like it cheapens the meaning of those words when we just throw them out. When like you just disagree with somebody or you just don't like somebody. Put them all in jail, but do better reporting. And that's funny too, because Hassan always cosplays as a reporter. When he gets called out for stuff, he'll go, but then when he gets called out the other way, he'll go, no, dude, I'm just a dude on the internet, you know? Like when he doesn't have integrity, but he doesn't have journalistic integrity. So cover the welfare fraud story. What they didn't do is go into random medical plazas, harass the staff working there, and think out loud about how strange it is that a bunch of would be in a medical plaza. You know, I mean, I think that's kind of a brain dead take. And what people were saying. So again, he's intentionally misunderstanding what this guy is saying. He's saying since this video dropped, like yesterday it already passed like 100 million views on X alone. And he said, oh, but every single major outlet covered the welfare fraud story. What they didn't do is go into random. That's not what he said. He said that none of these outlets covered Nick's story, covered this specific like him going into the daycares and him doing this on the ground investigative journalism. So it's like you're intentionally being disingenuous here, or you're just stupid, and it might be both. I mean, yeah, when you get hair plugs and plastic surgery and your vein, I mean, yeah, whatever, who cares? Oh, he's trying to clavic whatever, the dumbass dude. He made the most Israel video demanding to see children in all these facilities, and when they wouldn't let him in, that was enough evidence of fraud. Well, the evidence of fraud, or the supposed evidence of fraud, the reason that everybody tuned into his video is because there weren't any fucking kids at any of the daycares. There were supposed to be, and you know, there was the one that it was supposedly outside of operation hours, right? But other ones they were supposed to have, or they were licensed for 68 kids, 94 kids, 83 kids. Where the fuck were the kids? And why did all the people who lived near those places say that they'd never seen children going into those places? Traveled around the world, went to numerous protests. Yeah, him going to the anti-ICE riot in LA, and him walking around with a press vest on and just saying, dude, that's crazy. Whoa, dude, that's crazy. Oh yeah, I'm Hassan. Yeah, oh man, that's crazy. That's not any better. Oh jeez, okay, yeah, then he goes for the commie, shock their dogs, great. I wanted the first one. Pedo hunter. So that goes off of what he said before. I don't know what kind of fraud Somalis in daycares are doing, which if you watch the video, you'd wonder why there weren't hundreds of kids in the video. But I think it's a separate crime to try and storm with a camera into a daycare with kids in it. So, again, it's just so intentionally disingenuous where, like, if you watch the video, if you watch any of Nick's videos, like Nick Shirley's videos, he's always very soft-spoken, very polite. And he does a balancing act that's really good of he doesn't escalate, but he'll continue to push the issue. And it's like, this is just a direct insinuation. Again, later with the whole pedo hunter thing, it's like you're just trying to take the most obviously bad faith representation of what Nick did instead of either shut the fuck up and just not say anything, or like counter claims and come back with evidence, saying, oh, actually, like what the son of the one daycare did, where he's like, oh, this is, you know, we got the wrong banner from the graphic designer. We had this. No, here's, you know, we had to shut down for this. He was outside the operation hours, so we weren't here. If we were here, he would have, you know, we would have said hi to him, let him in. Versus just this, where it's you're being so disingenuous, and it, like, I don't care if there's Hassan heads or whatever. You're just being stupid, and you think you can get away with it because you think you're smart, and you think that everybody who is like riding you is stupider than you are. That's the only reason that you would say dumb shit like so constantly. Peace for Ukraine. Yeah, it's just every time I go in here, I'm like, oh, I was traveling around the world. I didn't actually finish reading this, but since I wasn't trying to storm childcare facilities with a camera, again, he wasn't storming. There was I didn't see a single aggressive movement by Nick that whole time. The old guy with him got fired up a little bit, like a couple of times, where he's like, where are the kids? Where are the kids? But like Nick was totally calm, like he always is. With a camera crew screaming, show me the children now, which he put that in quotes, and it's just blatantly false. It doesn't count. There's a proper way to conduct a thorough investigation, and you botched it for clickbait. So Hassan has never done a proper or thorough investigation in his entire life. Yeah, all he does is obfuscate, he does ad hominems, and he just tries to smear people who he talks to. I mean, how often have you heard of Hassan calling people who disagree with him, you know, and he does it veiled. He's like Candace Owens in that way. He makes the lolly enjoyer, pedophile, PDF file. Like he throws these terms out and just tries to associate people he disagrees with negative terms on the internet. I mean, he got demolished by Ethan Klein, and Ethan's not even that, like, respect to Ethan, but he isn't a debater. Like he's not known for that, right? I mean, maybe it goes in the family, because I've never seen Chunky Yogurt, his uncle. I've never seen him hold his end up in a debate either. At least not in a live debate. He has some good takes sometimes, like on X, but never in a live debate. So maybe it just runs in the family. But okay, anyway, enough about that. Yeah, I'm gonna end this one here, and yeah, we'll see where the fraud in Minnesota goes from this point on. I imagine, you know, just with the number of reports that are coming out saying it's just the tip of the iceberg, I think we should all buckle up, and it makes me really fearful for the rest of the country, because, you know, this is a microcosm. Minnesota is not tremendously populous. It's not where I would have expected this level of fraud to occur. So it just makes me wonder what's going on in like New York, Florida, Texas, California. And honestly, I'm more worried about blue states. Sorry. Just because they tend to, or they have a higher propensity to support social programs. And I mean, just also New York, Newsom, like just his track record with, you know, trying to fight homelessness in San Francisco, trying to fight homelessness across LA, across California, then the high-speed rail that didn't get built, not having water turned on because the smelt fish or whatever. Like, that's probably sensationalist, but it makes me wonder, like, because California is multitudes larger economically, population-wise, than Minnesota. So you just wonder, like, how that scales out. So that's what I'm most worried about. And I would again like to reaffirm that this is us against them. It's fraudsters against non-fraudsters. And even though, you know, I think this is a brain dead take, and a lot of, you know, Hassan makes good points from time to time, but it's just, it's so disingenuous. But it's like, I still want him to look at it the way I look at it, which everybody says that. But I want him to realize that we're on the same side, and that him attacking Nick Shirley is not in his best interests. It's not in my best interests. It's not in Nick's best interests. It's not in Hassan's, his followers. It's not in their best interest to try to obfuscate and attack somebody who is going in and trying to uncover more. You know, I think that's what Nick is doing. I genuinely don't think that Nick is trying to demonize the Somali population. If I believed that, I would call him out for it, but I didn't see any evidence for it. And that might change. Like, I don't know. But as things stand right now, you know, Hassan, get your shit together. You're never going to see this. You're never going to hear about this. But it's like, we can be on the same side, all of us. As long as you're not involved in the fraud, we can all be on the same side, because this is gonna make your agenda harder. How the hell are you going to talk people into a socialist agenda, or, you know, democratic socialist becoming the norm, when social programs are gutting taxpayers? Like, I saw the stat earlier today that the amount of money that they've uncovered just in Minneapolis is more than the sum total that we sent to Israel during the Israel-Hamas Gaza war. And we shouldn't have sent that money, I don't think. But we also shouldn't let fraud go unchecked and try to attack the people who are looking for it. Because, I don't know, because your journalistic integrity got, like, you didn't think he did it right. Well, if you don't think that he did it right, why don't you go do it? That's my challenge. I'm going to clip this. I need to figure out how to clip things. I need to figure out how to clip things first. But I'm going to clip this. Hassan, bro, if your problem is truly just that Nick didn't conduct a proper and thorough investigation and that he botched this investigation, I challenge you to either go to Minneapolis or go to St. Paul or go to Columbus, Ohio, I think was the other place, and conduct a thorough investigation. Or not even that. If you live in LA, go conduct a thorough investigation of state-funded welfare, healthcare, childcare, whatever. You go do it. If you're the judge and jury on whether or not somebody can conduct what is beneficial or negative content that is correctly done or incorrectly done, you go do it. Thanks for watching. For the 2 people who might click through this, I appreciate it. Sorry I yapped again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.